When my husband demanded a divorce after 12 years, I quietly agreed and signed the papers. As he celebrated with his mistress at our favorite diner, I approached their table with a smile. "Congratulations on your freedom," I said, sliding an envelope across the table. His smirk vanished as he read the DNA test results proving cherry red lipstick on crisp white cotton. That's what ended my marriage. Not with a scream or a bang, but with the silent horror of discovery. As I stood frozen in our walk-in closet, James's dress shirt dangling from my trembling fingers, I remember the exact moment perfectly. Wednesday, 8:42 a.m. The kids were at school, Lily at her dance class. I'd been gathering clothes for dry cleaning when I noticed James's gym bag tucked behind his rows of polished loafers. The zipper was partially open, revealing the crumpled shirt he'd supposedly worn to last night's emergency meeting. The stain wasn't professional, no consultant wore that shade of crimson into a boardroom. I grew up in a small town called Willow Creek, where trust was everything and secrets were hard to keep. That's probably why this hit me so hard. Back home, you knew who people were. Standing there, holding that shirt, I thought about how I've been sharing this unraveling with folks online, pouring my heart out. If you're following along, maybe feeling that raw ache of betrayal too, I'd love for you to like, comment, or subscribe. It helps keep these stories alive, lets others know they're not alone. Back to that moment in the closet, my heart was pounding as 12 years of marriage crystallized into the single, damning piece of evidence. James Miller, respected financial consultant, my husband, father of our 2 kids, had another woman's lips on his clothes. The carefully built life I'd been living shattered around me like cheap glass on a hardwood floor. The irony wasn't lost on me. For years, James's colleagues called us the perfect Millers, him with his sharp mind closing deals daily, me with my steady support, holding down our family. Our split-level house in Pine Grove, with its neat hedges and blue shutters, could have been ripped from a magazine, the American dream in brick and mortar. "Sarah makes it all work," he'd say at company dinners, his arm around me, whiskey glass in hand. I couldn't do this without her. The other consultants' wives would nod, but I caught the jealousy in their glances. We had it all. 2 great kids, a fat bank account, a partnership that survived the lean years of James's startup days and his climb to partner. Or so I thought. Looking back, the red flags were there. James started staying late, blaming understaffed projects. Weekend fishing trips with clients got more frequent. Our talks turned into quick exchanges, scheduling the kids' practices, sorting household bills, planning events to boost his career. When James landed partner status last fall, I threw a big party for his team. He grinned, thanked me in front of everyone, but later grumbled I'd overdone it, made him look soft in front of the board. That night, he crashed in the spare room, claiming he was wiped. "It's the stress," I told my cousin on the phone the next day. "Partner comes with so much pressure. Men at the top change, Sarah," she warned. I brushed it off, thinking it was her own messy divorce talking. The distance grew physical too. James blamed exhaustion from 14-hour days. When he dodged my touch, I tried new outfits, planned date nights, followed every tip those lifestyle blogs pushed to keep things alive. He went along, half there, scrolling his phone through dinners I'd spent hours planning. "Is everything okay with us?" I asked one night after he barely touched his favorite steak. "Just tired, Sarah. The Lawson deal's a mess," he'd say, then disappear into his study, door shut, voice a low hum on late-night calls. I believed in trust, in giving space. Checking his phone or email? That was for desperate women, not Sarah Miller, the perfect wife, until our 12th anniversary loomed. I wanted to surprise James with a weekend in Blue Ridge, where we'd spent our honeymoon. I needed to check his calendar, and his phone was on the kitchen island while he was in the shower. Just a quick glance to confirm he was free, that's all I meant to do. Then a text popped up. "Dr. Emily Larson, last night was incredible. Can't wait to have you again. When are you leaving her?" My hand shook as I opened the thread. Hundreds of messages, going back 6 months. Photos. Plans made while I was driving Lily to dance or helping Ethan with his math homework. Jokes about me. "Sarah's got some big anniversary thing planned," James wrote. "Poor thing thinks we've got something worth celebrating." I set the phone down, made his coffee like always, kissed him goodbye as he left for the office. Then I threw up until my stomach burned. That night, after the kids were in bed, I faced him in our bedroom, the same room where we'd planned our kids, where we'd cried through 2 miscarriages before turning to fertility treatments, where he'd held me when my mom passed. "Are you sleeping with Emily Larson?" My voice was steady, somehow. James didn't blink. He set his glasses on the nightstand, deliberate. "Yes." "How long? Does it matter?" He looked at me with a coldness I didn't know he had. "I want a divorce, Sarah." The calculated edge in his voice hit harder than the words. This wasn't a confession, it was a gut punch. "Why?" I whispered. "I've outgrown this life." Outgrown us. He waved at the room like it was a cage. I've given 12 years to this marriage, to these kids. I'm 42. If I'm going to start over, it's now. Start over? We built this together, James. Everything you are, everything I am. His laugh was sharp, cruel. I close $1 million deals daily. What do you do, Sarah? Plan bake sales? Organize my closet? I built this despite you holding me back. His words landed like fists. I'd paused my graphic design career to support his startup dreams, managed our home so he could chase promotions, hosted endless dinners for his clients. You'll be taken care of financially, he said, like he was closing a contract. The kids will adjust. They always do. He slept in the spare room that night. I lay awake, picking apart 12 years, wondering what was real. By morning, he was gone before sunrise, leaving a business card for his lawyer on the counter. The perfect life I thought we had was smoke and mirrors. The cracks were always there, I was just too committed to the fantasy to see them. What I didn't know then was that the lipstick and the affair were just the surface. James's betrayal went deeper than I could have imagined, and the truth would soon flip my world in ways that made his cheating look small. The day after he left the lawyer's card, I booked a meeting with Laura Bennett, the toughest divorce attorney in Pine Grove. I needed to know my options, to brace for the fight. Laura's first advice was blunt: document everything, Sarah. Especially the money. That night, after reassuring the kids that Daddy was just tied up at work, I cracked open our home safe. Inside were 12 years of records, tax forms, investment portfolios, property titles. As I sifted through, something stood out: monthly transfers, $3,000, $6,000, sometimes $8,000. From our joint account to something called Crestview Partners. No notes, no trail showing where it went. Over the last 18 months, nearly $200,000 was gone. I called the bank the next morning. The manager hesitated but confirmed Crestview Partners was an LLC in James's name only. The money vanished there. Is this common in divorces? I asked Laura at our next meeting, sliding the statements across her desk. She scanned them, her glasses catching the light. Hiding assets? Yeah, too common. But this looks deliberate, long-term. She paused, then mentioned Dr. Thomas Reed, a former colleague of James who'd left Sterling Consulting 2 years ago under odd circumstances. Might be worth a chat, she said. I vaguely remembered Thomas, quiet, always a bit awkward at company events. He'd vanished, and James waved off my questions with business disagreements, nothing big. It took 3 calls to find his new gig, a small advisory firm 30 miles out of town. His assistant was cagey, but when I dropped James's name, she put me through. Mrs. Miller, Thomas said, his voice heavy, I've been waiting for this call for years. We met at a diner halfway between Pine Grove and Thomas's new office in River Bend. He'd aged hard since I last saw him, gray streaks in his hair, deep creases around his eyes. He ordered black coffee and looked at me like he was sizing up a client. I knew this day would come, he said, voice low. Just didn't know if it'd be me spilling first or James slipping up with his ego. Over the next hour, he laid out a truth that broke what was left of my world. The fertility clinic at Sterling Wellness had issues, he said, barely above a whisper. Couples reported failed treatments despite perfect conditions. I spotted mismatches in the paperwork, small gaps between reported procedures and what actually happened. My hand shook around my untouched tea. We'd gone through 4 rounds of fertility treatments to conceive Ethan, then 3 more for Lily. Each failure crushed us, each success felt like a miracle. I dug deeper, quietly. Thomas continued. The clinic head, Dr. Harris, was fudging results, swapping samples, tweaking success rates to keep the clinic's funding and reputation intact. I felt my stomach drop. When I called him out, he admitted James knew. More than knew, he was in on it. That's impossible, I said, my voice cracking. James wanted kids. We both did. Thomas slid a USB drive across the table. Clinic records, lab reports, James's signature greenlighting adjustments, his term for messing with samples, including yours. Why? I barely got the word out. Career boost at first, Thomas said. Harris sat on the board that made James partner. But there's more. James has a genetic condition, mitral valve prolapse, manageable in him, but a 40% chance of passing it to his kids. A hotshot consultant like him couldn't risk kids with a health issue that might make him look weak. The words hit like a truck. I gripped the table to stay upright. So, during our treatments, he made sure his sample wasn't used? Thomas nodded. The clinic used anonymous donors instead. James knew exactly what he was doing. I left with the USB burning in my bag and a referral to a discreet DNA testing service. That night, after the kids were asleep, I collected samples, hair from Ethan's brush, saliva from Lily's toothbrush, and a few strands from James's old comb in the guest bathroom. The 10-day wait for results was hell. James was pushing the divorce hard, demanding custody evaluations, claiming I was too emotional to parent. His lawyer sent letters questioning my financial stability, calling my role in the family minimal. They offered a settlement that'd leave me scraping by, a move to break me. I kept up the act, helped Ethan with his history project, clapped at Lily's dance recital, smiled at school pickups, told other moms James was swamped with work. You know how it is, I'd say, shrugging. At night, I dug into fertility fraud cases online. The stories were gut-wrenching, doctors using their own samples, clinics mixing up embryos, families learning brutal truths years later. But nothing matched our case, a husband intentionally ensuring his kids weren't his, building a family on lies while playing the devoted dad. The testing service called on a Monday morning. "We have your results, Mrs. Miller," the woman said, calm and detached. "Email or phone?" "Email," I whispered, needing to see it myself. The report was cold, clinical. The alleged father is excluded as the biological father of the tested children. Probability of paternity, 0%. I printed 3 copies, one for Laura, one for a safe deposit box I'd opened in my name, and one for a plain envelope with the Sterling Wellness logo I'd taken from James's study. My hands didn't shake anymore. The shock had hardened into something else, sharp, cold, focused. This wasn't just about an affair or hidden money. James had stolen my choice, built a 12-year lie that shaped my life, my role as a mom, our kids' existence, all while posing as the perfect provider, the loving father, the brilliant consultant. The truth changed everything, and I had the power to make it change everything for him too. With the DNA results in hand, my grief turned into resolve. James had spun a fake reality for 12 years. Now I'd unravel it, piece by piece. I started contacting other families who'd used Sterling Wellness during James's oversight. Thomas gave me a list of 23 couples who might have been affected. Most wouldn't talk, too scared to question their kids' origins. 4 agreed to meet. The Thompsons had twins who didn't resemble them. The Kapoors had a son with unexplained health issues. The Browns and Lopez's had stories of miracle pregnancies after Dr. Harris took a special interest. "We were just so thankful," Lisa Brown said, voice breaking. "We never asked how." My search led to Ellen Carter, a former clinic nurse who'd worked there for 10 years. We met at her cluttered apartment outside River Bend, surrounded by boxes of old files. "I kept everything," she said, hands shaky as she pulled out a worn notebook. "Patient names, sample switches, signatures approving changes. They thought I shredded it all when I left." "Why didn't you report it?" I asked. Her smile was bitter. "I tried. Clinic management, ethics boards, even the cops, every time it got buried. Your husband's got powerful connections, Mrs. Miller." She showed me entries going back 7 years, detailed logs of sample substitutions, forged consent forms, procedural tweaks. James's signature was everywhere, approving adjustments, 4 cases with genetic concerns, including ours. I found a page with my name, dates matching our treatments, special instruction from Mr. Miller, sample replacement authorized due to quality concerns. No donor ID recorded. I photographed every page, every signature, every damning note. As I left, Ellen handed me a card. "Healthcare Fraud Task Force. Ask for Agent Carter. Tell him I sent you." Daniel Carter was investigating Sterling Wellness for 14 months but couldn't crack the clinic's wall of silence. "Your evidence could break this open," he said at our first meeting. "But we need more, bank records showing kickbacks. Recorded admissions, someone on the inside." I committed to getting what he needed while playing the part of a wife grudgingly accepting divorce. I nodded sadly during mediation, agreed to temporary custody terms, acted like I was considering James's pathetic settlement offer. "You're being reasonable, Sarah," he said after one tense meeting, smug as ever. "The kids come first," I replied, voice soft. "I just want what's fair." His confidence grew with every inch I gave, not knowing I was building a case that would tear his world apart. James's arrogance was his blind spot. He started bringing Emily to school events, introducing her to our friends, even had her stay over when the kids were at his new loft in downtown River Bend. I played along, acting like the defeated ex-wife, while quietly recording conversations, snapping photos of documents, and building my case. Then my investigation took a sharp turn. I hired a private investigator to dig into Emily's past. The report was a bombshell. She wasn't just James's colleague and mistress, she was Melissa Vaughn's daughter. Melissa had been James's client 4 years ago, a high-stakes merger that tanked due to a mistake James made under pressure. The company's internal review cleared him, blaming Melissa for withholding key financial details. But Agent Carter uncovered the real story. James had been distracted, overworked, after a weekend with Emily in Denver. His error cost Melissa's company millions, and her family paid the price. Her husband died 9 months later from a stress-related stroke, leaving Emily alone. She changed her last name, erased her past, and wormed her way into James's life, first as a colleague, then as his lover. Her revenge had been brewing for years, just like mine was now. I thought about confronting Emily, maybe even teaming up, but her motives felt too raw, too unstable. Mine had to stay sharp, precise. Over the next 6 weeks, I gathered statements from former Sterling Wellness employees, traced the money from Crestview Partners to offshore accounts, and secured affidavits from patients whose treatments were tampered with. Agent Carter built the legal case while I worked on something more personal, tearing down James Miller's carefully crafted image. During a co-parenting meeting, I steered the conversation toward the fertility treatments. "Ethan's got your smile," I said offhand, watching him scroll his phone. "Strong genes. Good stock," he muttered, distracted. "Ever worry they got your heart issue?" His eyes flicked up, sharp. "Mitral valve prolapse? Reed needs to shut up about things that don't concern him. Doesn't our kids' health concern me?" I pressed. "No issue," he snapped. "I had them tested ages ago. They're clear." "Without telling me? I'm their dad and a professional." I made a call. The recorder in my bag caught every word, his acknowledgement of the condition, the secret tests, his lie about the kids' biology. It was the final piece Agent Carter needed. The timing was perfect. The annual Sterling Wellness Gala was coming up, the biggest event on their calendar. James was set to receive the Consultant of the Year award for his innovative leadership and ethical excellence. The invitation came to our house, still addressed to both of us despite the divorce. James texted he'd be bringing Emily but said I could come if it's not too weird. I replied with just enough hurt to seem convincing, I wouldn't miss it. "You've earned this." He didn't know I'd already met with the company's board chair, Patricia Hayes, sharing key evidence. A closed-door meeting was set right before the gala, where Agent Carter would lay out the full case against James, Dr. Harris, and the fertility clinic. As I picked out my gala dress, a fitted navy gown Emily had once texted James was "soccer mom trying too hard." I got word James and Emily would celebrate at Bella Vita afterward, the little Italian place where he proposed 12 years ago. It was the perfect stage for my final move. The envelope with the DNA results was ready, tucked in my purse. The authorities were prepped. Every detail was locked in. For the first time in months, I felt steady, certain. James had built a lie for 12 years. Tomorrow, the truth would come out. The gala night arrived with a restless energy, gray clouds hanging low but not breaking. I walked into the hotel ballroom alone, navy dress hugging my frame, silver earrings, James's old anniversary gift, catching the chandelier's glow. I spotted James right away, holding court by the podium, arm around Emily's waist. She wore scarlet, the same shade as the lipstick that started this. Board members laughed at his quips, fawning over his perfect partner, the image of success. The board meeting had wrapped 20 minutes earlier. I'd watched from a side room as Agent Carter presented the evidence, financial trails, patient testimonies, Ellen Carter's meticulous records. The board's faces shifted from doubt to disbelief to cold determination. Sterling's legal team had already looped in the DA's office. James knew none of it, basking in congratulations for his award, oblivious that officers were stationed at every exit, waiting for Carter's signal. I moved through the crowd, taking quiet condolences from colleagues' wives who saw me as James's discarded accessory. "So strong of you to show," whispered Karen Holt, the CFO's wife, her pity real but her eyes on James and Emily. "I had to see James get what he deserves," I said, my smile making her shift uncomfortably. The ceremony went as planned. Patricia Hayes let it play out, knowing a public fall would hit harder than a quiet arrest. James took the stage to loud applause, accepting the glass trophy with practiced charm. "Consulting isn't just numbers," he said into the mic, "it's trust, between us and our clients. Ethics drive every deal, every choice, every moment." I watched Emily during his speech, her jaw tight, her smile a little too perfect. She was playing a part, just like I had for 12 years, but for different reasons. Our eyes met across the room, a flicker of understanding passing between us, two women who knew the real James Miller. After the ceremony, they headed to Bella Vita, as expected. I followed 15 minutes later, the envelope in my clutch. The restaurant hadn't changed, white linens, dim lights, soft jazz in the air. The host recognized me. "Mrs. Miller, so good to see you. Your husband said you might stop by." James was either cocky or setting me up for a scene. Either way, it worked for me. They sat at our old table by the window. James had ordered a 1985 Chianti we'd shared on our 8th anniversary, the bottle worth more than a week's groceries. He saw me first, his face flashing from surprise to smugness, probably thinking I was there to beg. Emily turned, her polished features settling into fake concern. Sarah, James said, his tone dripping condescension, this is a surprise. Is it? I said, calm as ever. You told the host I might come. Emily shifted, uneasy. Maybe I should give you two a moment. Stay, I said, locking eyes with her. You've earned your spot at this table, Emily. Or should I say Emily Vaughn? Her face went pale. James's brow creased. What's that supposed to mean? He snapped. Emily knows, I said. Don't you, Emily? Daughter of Melissa Vaughn, the client whose merger you botched, costing her everything while you partied with her daughter in Denver. James turned to Emily, realization hitting. Is this true? Her silence said enough. I used the moment of stunned silence to slide the envelope across the table. Congratulations on your freedom, James, I said, my voice steady. This should be an interesting read. His hand hesitated, then opened it, pulling out the DNA test results. I watched his face cycle through confusion, disbelief, then raw panic as the truth sank in. This can't be right, he whispered, voice cracking. Is it? I said, calm as stone. You made sure your sample was never used in our fertility treatments. You faked records, lied to me for 12 years about our kids' very existence. Emily stared at the paper, then at James. What's she talking about? She asked, her voice sharp. Nothing, James snapped, trying to claw back control. Sarah's making up stories because she can't handle the divorce. Then you won't mind explaining this to the board, I said, nodding toward the restaurant entrance where Patricia Hayes and two board members stood with Agent Carter. Or to the DA's office. Or to our kids. James's face twisted. With fury. You spiteful, careful, Agent Carter cut in, stepping to the table. James Miller, you're under arrest for financial fraud, medical ethics violations, and breach of professional conduct. The restaurant went quiet as Carter read his rights, the words cutting through the soft jazz. Emily sat frozen, her own plans derailed by something bigger than she'd ever imagined. As an officer cuffed James, he glared at me. You planned this, he hissed. All those months playing the broken ex-wife. 12 years, James, I said. You had 12 years to live your lie. I needed 4 months to expose it. As they let him out, Emily stayed at the table, staring at her wine glass. I didn't know about the kids, she said quietly. I believe you, I replied. Your mom deserved justice too. The fallout was immediate. In the weeks that followed, the story blew up across business and local news. James faced multiple felony charges, his consulting license suspended pending trial. Sterling Wellness shut down its fertility clinic for a full investigation. Dozens of families came forward, demanding answers about their children's origins. The financial hit was swift. James's hidden accounts were frozen, and a court-appointed accountant traced every cent he'd siphoned off. Ethan and Lily's future was secured through a trust funded by the recovered money. Thomas Reed approached me after James's first hearing. Sterling's setting up an ethics board for when the clinic reopens, he said. They want me to lead it. That's great, I said, meaning it. Actually, he added, I suggested we co-chair. Your perspective's critical. The offer caught me off guard. For 12 years, I'd been Sarah Miller, the consultant's wife, my identity swallowed by James's career, his goals, his image. Now I was being asked to step up as me. 5 months after the gala, I sat across from Emily at a quiet cafe, not Bella Vita. An odd alliance had formed during the legal mess, 2 women screwed over by the same man for different reasons. Do you regret it? She asked, stirring her coffee. Exposing it all? The kids will find out someday. I thought about it, hard. They'll learn their origins aren't what we thought, I said. But that doesn't change who they are. Or how much I love them. Their lives were built on lies. I chose truth, no matter how messy. That night, watching Ethan and Lily sleep in the house we'd kept despite James's push to sell, I felt something new, not triumph or revenge, but freedom. The perfect family I'd clung to was gone, but what replaced it was real. I wasn't living James's lie anymore. For the first time in 12 years, I was writing my own story, rough, complicated, and mine. The truth didn't just free me. It reshaped everything. The kids were still my kids, biology be damned. Ethan's goofy grin, Lily's quiet focus, they were mine in every way that mattered. But the weight of James's betrayal lingered, not as pain but as a reminder of what I'd survived. I started working with the ethics board, digging into the clinic's past, helping families get answers. It wasn't just about justice, it was about making sure no one else got blindsided like I did. The work gave me purpose, something I hadn't Realized I'd lost in all those years of playing the perfect wife. Emily and I stayed in touch, not as friends but as people bound by a shared wound. She'd been after James for her mom's ruin, but she hadn't known the half of what he'd done. Her revenge had been personal, mine was bigger, colder, built to dismantle not just James but the system that let him thrive. She was starting over too, moving out of River Bend, trying to piece together a life that wasn't defined by her mother's loss or James's lies. "You're stronger than I thought," she told me at that cafe, almost grudgingly. I shrugged. Didn't have a choice. The house felt different now. The kids noticed it too, less tension, more space to just be. Ethan asked about his dad once, his voice small. "Is he coming back?" I hugged him tight. "He's dealing with some grown-up stuff," I said. "But we've got this, you and me and Lily." Lily overheard, didn't say much, just slipped her hand in mine. They'd learn the full truth someday, and I'd be there when they did, ready to catch them. For now, we were enough. Looking back, the lipstick stain was just the spark. The real fire was James's choices, every faked record, every hidden dollar, every lie he told to keep his image clean. He'd built a castle on sand, and I'd brought the tide. The news stories faded, but the impact didn't. Families were still coming forward, some with stories like mine, others with different scars from sterling wellness. The ethics board was a start, but I knew the work would take years. I was ready for it. That night in the cafe with Emily, I realized something else. The life I'd thought was perfect, the big house in Pine Grove, the smiling family photos. The polished life James and I showed the world, was never mine. It was his stage, and I'd been a prop. Now, I was the one calling the shots. Messy? Sure. Complicated? Definitely. But it was honest, and that was enough. I wasn't Sarah Miller, the consultant's wife anymore. I was Sarah, period, flawed, fierce, and finally free.